Welcome back all. We are moving on to the second part of the video. We go on to the themes and symbols. So first let's look at the themes. China versus America. As I told earlier, the term Chimerica is inspired from a neologism coined by Neil Ferguson and Moritz Schularik. The symbiotic relationship of China and America is explored through the play. Both nations are trying to put one up another, like China is trying to be better than America, America is trying to be better than China. There has been a competition between these two nations for the reign of world. Like who will be on top of the world? This question has been going on for a long time. The photograph acquires a new meaning, as Lucy Kirkwood says in her book. It is a photograph of one country taken by another country, the narrative about a country being decided by another country. One finds fake news in both countries. China tries to show only the good side of themselves, whereas America is trying to show the gruesome side of China. Same thing China doing with America. Both countries, they are sort of like understanding one another, try to study each other. Tests is being sent to China to study the market so they can understand the people of China. America tries to show they are benevolent by giving a space to Chinese people escaping China. So it may be really benevolent step. It have this dimension of showing China that look, your people are coming to us. Then it is Chinese politics. Chinese government has shown in all its negative and positive sides in the play. We get to see how the government doesn't tolerate any form of dissent. Dissent can't happen in China. And we know many other places too where this is happening currently, where dissent will not be tolerated. Joe's attempt to just take the photo of the hotel in Tiananmen Square is thwarted by a secret police officer, the one with the umbrella. We also see the government even spreading fake news at the cost of the citizens' life. So there is this meter for pollution. It does not go above 500, never goes above the number of 500. Though citizens with the eyes can see that it definitely is above the 500. Like you can feel or you can literally see the pollution in the air. Zhang Lin has to pay dearly for just criticizing the government's way of handling the smoke pollution and people affected by it. He is tortured brutally. At first, he is called in for questioning and then he is tortured in the most brutal ways possible. Government also censors anything that doesn't fit the perfect image of their nation. Every media in their country is scrutinized by them. Though Chinese government can't stand foreigners judging them and want to rule over other countries, they allow the MNCs from other countries to establish franchises in their country, but by embracing their culture. Like KFC, Burger King, McDonald's, they all are American companies. They can come to China, they can establish their franchisee there, but the food they may be serving or just for any others another type of MNCs, the service they are giving should have the Chinese touch to it. There should be a way of embracing the Chinese culture. You can check up the menus of these restaurants in China and you will find what I mean. As long as you don't criticize the government, Chinese government will always help you and encourage you. Like it's a really good place to stay. You can earn as much money as possible. You can have as much luxurious life as you want. Just don't do one thing. Don't criticize the government. Please don't criticize the government. Till you criticize the government, they will be helping you and encouraging you. And once you decide to criticize the government, yeah, we can't very well predict what they may do. Government can even control the weather. Yeah, the government can literally control the weather of China. You have to just Google and you will find what I mean. Censorship. Mainly, we are looking more grave look into censorship. Extreme form of censorship. The traces of all the atrocities that happened in 1989 is erased They are erased from the textbook, history textbooks. We know there have been some attempts to change the history textbooks of our own nation, India. There were controversies happening with regard to some parts of history textbook being changed. No, unlike India, China doesn't try to change their history textbook. They just don't enter the things only. They are not letting any information enter the textbook which they don't like. So they don't have to change it because they make it already in such a way. The very reading of pollution rate is rigged by the authorities as it never goes above 500. The government even fires people who though unknowingly refers to incident, like what happened with Mary Chang. Mary Chang was so young that in the generation she grew up, she studied, they never came across this incident, so they didn't knew. You can't look it up on internet because even the internet is censored over there. So she didn't knew, and therefore she let the advertisement, memorial advertisement, go, and Chinese government let her go off her job. We find censorship even in America when Frank, like there are censorship in America too. We see Frank saying to him, okay, do one thing, don't put this up, don't pursue this article, we can't do anything. The thing happens. Like the company that owns us is going to have a division of theirs in China, so they have to, they want you not to pursue it. Then we go on to image, how we see how image comes into play. The major theme and can be taken in many senses. Often the image is not the reality. In the photograph, Tagman appears to be a fearless man, whereas in real life, he is reeling from personal loss and he's scared. At the moment the photograph is being taken, like we are talking about the photo, we are talking about the fictional world. We are talking about Zhang Lin as Tagman, not the actual person. In the real life, he was reeling from a personal loss, and that when the photograph was taken, to Joe, it was an act of fearlessness, but to Lin, it was not. The grocery bag, which to the viewer denoted his common man figure, was actually filled with remains of his wife. That's not something which a common man would have. The image of both the countries, which what they or the media shows, is entirely different or slightly different from the reality. Altered version of reality, if you may. Joe's image of the world is also questioned at one point in the play. Video game view of the world. Frank calls out this viewing POV of Joe. He says that, but things doesn't quite fit your video game view of the world. That's the scene. Driving the point home that the image Joe sees of the world is not the real image. Joe perceived himself to be a fearless and proud journalist who does journalism for the sake of it. This is another image breaking. But at the end of the play, he comes out of this image. The same Joe who chastised Tess over selling photos is arranging a gallery event of his photographs. The people, photograph, place, etc. have a dual existence, one in the constructed image and another in the reality. The image has an unsung hero, or as we in the play say, unknown hero, whom to Joe and Americans is the man in front of the tank. But as per the narrative the Chinese government have made, it is the soldier inside the tank. But actually, we can consider, like, if you are to talk the right thing, we can also consider that man inside the tank as unknown hero or unsung hero because the man didn't drive over another fellow citizen of his country. Like, make us remember things going on around, like now, what we know of. Two tank men, one outside and one inside. And for both countries, they are different. Change. Change also counts as a theme in the play. The only constant thing is change that keeps happening. A big symbol of change is actually Joe. We see that from 19 years old age to 40, he is using the same photo camera. But in the last act, he shifts into digital camera, maybe symbolizing a move from ideal notion surrounding photography. An aspect of not being able to accept change is also shown in the play. When Joe returns to China, like many other people, he's only able to talk about how devastated China is, how Chinese government have done these things in 1989, how this has affected the people, how there are people who suffer in China. But Lin, knowing both the sides of the country, says that China is not only that. China is not only the negative sides; they have the positive sides too. Changes and how people react to them form a part of the play. The way a nation citizen react to its changes, the people react to change in their lifestyle, the change in the narrative we have around us. Change is constant, nothing else is constant. State and individual. State and individual is what leaves a pain in us when we see the play. The dynamic between state and individual. Atrocities a government commit on a citizen is a major point of the play. A country turning against its own citizen is something severe, making it a major news. Frank says, "Yes, Joe, I think 300 Chinese people being gunned down by their own government warrants a little more than 100 words on page 6, don't you?" That's it. If a government is committing atrocities on its citizen, then it is a big news. This is further driven home when we see what the government does to Zhang Lin just because he criticized them in an article. We also see it in the 1989 atrocities in which Lin lost his wife. We have then narratives. Narrative is a major theme in the play. Narrative is a major tool in the present world where media holds a major power over people's perception. We can make any narrative and make the facts which we have fit into the narrative or construct some new facts of our own. The narrative of China as made by the American media in the play make the Chinese government the epitome of cruelty and all the people there in need of sympathy. The narrative of Chinese government over the incident of 1989 made the soldiers in the tank be seen as the true hero, ignoring the man in front of it. Now, America ignored the man inside it and China ignored the man outside it. Chinese government even made a narrative around facts too, a pollution counter that never goes above 500. It's also the reason why Vietnam War was lost in the living rooms of America. Like Vietnam War was one of the very first wars which was televised. Like we could get images of the war at home. And that's why once somewhere in the play, a character says, Vietnam War was lost in the living rooms of America. Now we move on to symbols. So this was all about the themes, and mostly the themes are about surrounding narrative, how the government's narrative work, how the people's narrative work. It was about change, how changes happen. Change is only the constant thing. The dynamic between China and America, the way Chinese politics work, and how China and America is trying to one up each other all the time. So this was all about the themes, and now we move on to symbols. Photograph. Photograph of the Tang Man is a major symbol in the play. It is a symbol of passion for truth that lies within Joe. Joe craves for truth. To him, his photographs are truth. It is at first the symbol of people's courage in the face of a despondent government. It is a symbol of courage that a common man possesses. Then later, it becomes a tool through which narratives can be empowered. The story the China government weaves around this particular photograph is the example. Photograph also becomes a materialistic asset through which people's emotion and sorrow are sold for personal satisfaction. Tess asking for the credit card, a photo for a credit card, also Joe selling the photographs at the end of the play. Tang Man's photograph is a symbol of resistance and rebellion on the side of Chinese people. They are standing up to their government, they are standing up against their government. Grocery bag, another. Grocery bag throughout the early part of the play is a symbol of commonness of a man. It becomes the symbol of common man's courage as he faces a fully armed tank with mere grocery bags in his hand. There's a huge armed tank coming towards you. And what do you have? You have these two grocery bags. What are you going to do? It becomes the symbol of people's curiosity, something that makes people curious about the picture. Yeah, like people are curious to know what's happening here or what will happen here. They're curious of what is going to happen. So therefore it also symbolizes people's curiosity. But at the end of the play, it becomes the most powerful symbol in the play. It shows what people lost, what the depth of loss has happened, is happening when a country is going against its citizen. It is the grocery bag that gives him the power to face the tank. The power to face the tank have come from the grocery bag. It contains the remains of his beloved, the gift of his nation to him. At the end of the play, Zhang Lin takes only two grocery bag worth of things with him, it depicting the length to which his life has degraded. He had all these things, now he have only two grocery bags with him. Grocery bag, the same one that took away the purpose of his life, is what he carries with him, maybe symbolizing the purposelessness that surrounds him. Then comes credit card. Credit card symbolizes America's way of giving Chinese people the temptation of capitalism. It also symbolizes the failure of Americans to understand the Chinese people's mentality, as the idea for a credit card doesn't work out. Like we see Tessa's presentation fail, and we also see the credit card company never entering the Chinese market because Chinese people's psyche is not something which a capitalist country could fully understand. It also symbolizes the purely monetary value based thinking of people. We see Tess asking for the war photographs to be put on credit cards. She's only thinking on monetary terms here. She's offering him money. Yeah, she's ready to give him the money he wants. We have tank. The tank symbolizes the ultimate violent and forceful nature of Chinese government. It also symbolizes the cluelessness of the government when faced with the resistance of its people. Like the tankmen stop because they're seeing someone stand before the tank. They have no idea what to do. That's the same thing that happens to government when government sees people protesting. What? Why are they protesting? We did something good for them. Why are they protesting? They are clueless. Tank also symbolizes the inhuman side of the government, whereas the tank driver symbolizes the humanity. Now we can take tank as this inhuman side of government as whole, not individuals, as some authority who doesn't understand what humanity is. But at the same time, the tank man, the man inside the tank who was later executed by Chinese government in the story, in the fictional world, symbolizes the humanity present deep within the inhuman government. Like if we go inside any authoritative government, we may find one or two people who have this human inside them who can't show the humanness just because they are in a government which is authoritative, doesn't allow its citizen freedom. It is the human who saved the resistance from going down. It was a human who saved the resistance, like showed the people that they can resist government. Thank you. These are the image sources. This is the content source. Great Saver helped me. So thank you.